All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, many times in life we reach critical impasses, crossroads in our lives, where we know that we have to make a difficult decision, even though the difficulty in the decision is not that we're confused about what to do. The difficulty in the decision is that we know that there are going to be some repercussions, some consequences of making that decision. Like, for example, some of you might be graduating from high school, and you know that you have to go to a college or university that's far away. You're in a relationship with a female that you like a lot, but you know you have to go to this university that's 10 states over. Your relationship is not going to work. That long distance thing is not realistic. Or maybe she's going to university in a state that's halfway across the country. You know that it's not going to work. So you understand the decision that has to be made. You just have to deal with the repercussions of it. Or you might have an opportunity to go work somewhere to pursue the career that you've always wanted. And you have to leave certain quote unquote friends behind. They might be upset. A lot of people are haters, especially if they're not aspirational. If you're not careful, they might try to sabotage your future. These are all repercussions that we know we have to deal with when we must make critical decisions. The point being is that in order to achieve anything great in life, we must have courage. And a lot of the courage that is, intertwined with critical decisions is being able to deal with the repercussions of our decisions. Therefore, we must have no regrets. We have to just dive in and deal with whatever happens after that. And trust that we're making the right decision, because once again, oftentimes we know that the most difficult decisions are the ones that are the most straightforward, the most linear, the most obvious. Sometimes you're with someone, a significant other, and you know that it's not going to work. You might really like her or even love her. She might really like you or even love you. But for whatever reason, you have to separate. Maybe your life is growing in a direction that she's not willing to follow. If you're someone who's focused and who's driven, your partner must be willing to follow you wherever you go. If she's not willing to do that, it's not going to work. She has to go. Kevin Durant, he reached a crossroads in his career in 2016. He understood that in order for him to amplify his understanding of the game of basketball and also his profile, he had to go to an organization and a team that was conducive to his skill set and assisting him in winning, because in winning, it was going to build his brand even larger than it was prior to 2016. So him going to Golden State was literally a no-brainer. As I've always stated, the media, they like to waffle. They like to vacillate with the narrative that they propagate about Kevin Durant. When they're trying to denigrate Golden State, the media will say, well, Golden State begged Kevin Durant to come there because they knew they would never beat LeBron. When they're trying to denigrate Kevin Durant, they say, well, KD ran to Golden State because he knew that he would never beat LeBron. And plus, he was on the team that had Golden State down 3-1, but he ran to the team that beat him. So they play this game with both KD and Golden State in order to defend their guy, LeBron James. The point being is this. The best decision for you is oftentimes also the most difficult decision for you, depending on how you feel or how much you're concerned about other people's feelings about you. In order to be great, you cannot be concerned about other people's feelings about you. All that's going to do is paralyze you. Most people are losers. It's just the fact of the matter. Most people are losers. What most people can teach you to do is how to settle in life. In order to be great, you have to know what you want to be. And really, you have to filter out all of the outside noise and be single-minded and focused. That's how you're going to get to the greatest version of yourself. Kevin Durant was able to reach a higher version of himself when he went to Golden State. He became immersed in a culture that was about winning, and it showed him, beyond a shadow of a doubt, what it took to win, or what it takes to win. And now, much like LeBron James, when LeBron James went to Miami and then departed for Cleveland, KD is hoping that he can take the knowledge that he learned in Golden State and bring it over to the Brooklyn Nets. Because if he's able to lead the Brooklyn Nets to a couple of championships, beyond a shadow of a doubt, he's going to be considered a top 10 player of all time. No doubt about it. And he recently sat down with Draymond Green and he confessed that if he had to do all over again, that decision to leave OKC for Golden State, he would do it, no doubts. no hesitancy. And that's supposed to be what he says, because if he shows any hesitancy, any looking back, any regrets, the wolves are going to jump on him even more. There's nothing that losers like more than to know that they're making an impact on your decisions. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Durant opened up during a Bleacher Report interview with Draymond Green, and one topic that came up was his decision to join Golden State in 2016, despite nearly beating that same Warriors team in the playoffs with the Thunder months earlier. And despite the backlash he received for joining a super team, KD had no regrets about his decision, saying, quote, "I would do that bleep 1,000,000 times. You know, I didn't second guess at all." Shit.
You have to be like that. I started a series a while ago featuring Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul entitled Break Through the Fourth Wall. When LeBron James decided to go to the Miami Heat, he broke through the fourth wall. When Kevin Durant decided to go to the Golden State Warriors, he broke through the fourth wall. Basically, breaking through the fourth wall is what makes your path easier, quote unquote, easier. It's almost like one of those scenes in an action adventure movie where the hero has to go through the labyrinth or through the maze, but they decide to just, light a grenade and blow up the whole labyrinth to get to their goal. That's what it means to break through the fourth wall. You break through a lot of the machinations or the stumbling blocks that are created to deter you from getting to, the object that you seek. Now, some people will say, well, that's the easy route. And Kevin Durant is going to have to deal with that for the remainder of his life, as will LeBron James. They will not be esteemed as high by their peers as they would have had they taken the conventional route. When I say their peers, I'm talking about other superstars who won championships. Isaiah Thomas, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan. They're always going to view their championships as being higher in esteem than the championships won by KD or LeBron James, because they did it organically in their minds. And that's just something that KD and LeBron are going to have to come to terms with. But they did break through the fourth wall, basically the ritualized cultures of the sports world that are oftentimes very akin to the warrior ethos, where we have to win a certain way or we suffer. But those are rituals and a mindset that's really been bestowed upon them by the puppeteers, the networks, the league organizations, so on and so forth, who are going to make money regardless. These athletes today, they've broken through the fourth wall and they've decided, we're not going to adhere to old school conventions.
Like his explanation.
I believe it. I believe it 1,000%, Skip. I believe it was a basketball decision because the money was going to be the same no matter where he went once he left OKC. So it wasn't a money issue. Kevin Durant is a guy that he became Kevin Durant in OKC. So it wasn't like he was on a big market team, a big market. So I believe him. But Skip, the reason why I believe him is because when he won those titles, it lifted a burden. We were talking about Kevin Durant hadn't won anything. Can you imagine the pressure on Kevin Durant if here we are year 14 and 15 and he does not have any titles?
Those are very valid points. And also, as already stated, KD broke through the fourth wall. And in addition to that, the only reason why it took him so long to sign with Golden State is because he obviously had great consternation when it comes to how he would be perceived if he did the obvious thing. It's almost like the guy who's presented with options over who he wants to pick as a sex partner. And you have the one beautiful woman there with the big breasts and the fat booty and the nice lips and all that other stuff. And then you have other types of women that you might not be as attracted to, but you're concerned about how you're going to be viewed if you just go straight for the stereotypical sex pot woman. Some people will be concerned about how they're viewed by others, and other people won't give a shit. So a lot of times, that's the big hurdle. That's the big stumbling block. Do you have the courage to just go after what you actually want? That's why I state that most people are actually losers. Most people are deterred from what they really want out of life by others and by the thought process of those around them. That's why I always state, if you really want to be a success, you have to isolate yourself for a certain period of time so that you can hone in on the things that you've always wanted. To be a loser doesn't mean that you lost. You understand? Losing is a mindset. You have people who've worked the same job for 40 years, and in my view, they're a loser because they had other goals, they had other aspirations, but they never pursued them. You understand? That's what it means to be a loser to me. If you want, if you want to be the checkout girl at a restaurant for your whole life, and that's what you always wanted to be, then you're a winner because you got to where you wanted to go to. If you want to work checkout at the restaurant or at the hotel. But if if you're a billionaire and you're doing something that you never wanted to do and you hate your life, you're a loser because you never pursued what it is that you actually wanted. That's what I mean when I say most people are losers. They settle. I mean, what's the point of living this life if you're going to settle all the damn time?
The criticism that started him out for Jordan, Skip, you were there when the criticism in the late 80s, 90s. He's great, but he ain't winning. LeBron. So can you imagine? And that was what year for Jordan? 7? Year 7 or 8? He finally.
Year 7 is when Jordan won his first championship, 1991.
7 or 8 before he finally won.
LeBron was year 8.
Year 14 and 15, and Kevin Durant has no titles. The pressure and the buzz that he was here. I just think the reason why people got so upset, they weren't upset that KD left. It was that where he went after he left. I believe if he goes anywhere else, Skip, he goes to Washington, he goes to the Knicks, he goes anywhere.
The real reason why people were so upset is because Kevin Durant used his privilege. In this society today, we're inundated with this concept of quote-unquote white privilege. I've always stated there's no such thing as white privilege. There's only white rulership. When you're in power, when you're in rulership, you show preference to your own. I don't care who you are. So the only people who complain about this concept of privilege are the people who show the least amount of privilege to their own, that being so-called black people. So-called black people are the only race of people on the planet Earth who for some strange reason believe that other races are supposed to treat them the same way that they treat their own. Like, I hate to break it to you, but the Asians are never going to treat you as a so-called black person how they treat their own. Nor is the so-called Caucasian, nor the so-called East Indian, or the so-called, whatever. Everybody's going to show preferential treatment to their own. Even amongst so-called black people, because unfortunately the so-called blacks of the captivity, they refuse to acknowledge who they actually are according to the Bible. So they want to fit in with other nations and other quote-unquote races that are quote-unquote melanated, but they find out very quickly these other nations do not view you as their kin. So, when someone from Uganda comes across another person from Uganda, they're not going to say that they're black anymore. They're going to link up with their Ugandan brother or sister. So privilege is just a byproduct of rulership and culture and customs and rituals, things that our people really don't adhere to or acknowledge. So when KD decided that he was going to go to Golden State, he was using his athlete privilege. In the sports world, athletes have privilege. From the time that they're 13 years old, they're feted by sports apparel companies and agents and things of that sort. They're allowed to go to the best schools in both high school and college. They're given access to vehicles and the prettiest girls going into the prettiest women. These are things that they're afforded because they've earned that right. Kevin Durant is one of one on the planet Earth. There is no other person on the earth like Kevin Durant who can do what he can do. There's no one 6'10", 6'11" with that skill set on the planet Earth. So at the end of the day, of course, he's going to be in high demand by the best team in the world, where he fit in literally perfectly. I'm not quite sure if there's ever been another free agent acquisition that fit in as perfectly as KD did with the Golden State Warriors. Maybe not since Moses Malone. Not since Moses Malone went to the Philadelphia 76ers in '82 has a team acquired a player who fit in as perfectly as KD did with the Warriors. And I believe that Moses was traded to Philly.
Team that had won 73 games the year before,
Yep.
and had Steph and Clay, I believe it would have been all good. They're like, man, I wish he stayed in OKC, but we get it. But it was when he went there that we have no problem with him leaving. Hell, he fulfilled his obligations. He played his contract out.
Yeah.
He didn't request no trade.
No.
He didn't ruffle any feathers. Didn't know. You said you heard through his sources that he was unhappy, but no, it caught everybody.
Anyone could see that KD was unhappy with Russell Westbrook. How could anybody be happy playing with Russell Westbrook? I think that the only person who's ever partnered with Russell who was happy with him has been his wife. That's about it. All of his teammates love him. They say that he's a great guy, but Russell's one of those guys who just doesn't get it. He's never going to get it. I remember watching a game just this past season, the Wizards against the Hawks. And the Wizards are trailing the whole game. They come back late. Russell is brilliant, I think, in the fourth quarter. I think he had like a triple-double in the fourth quarter alone. But with 2 minutes left, or no, not even 2 minutes, I think like 10 seconds left, he dribbles down the clock all the way down, almost takes a terrible three-point shot with like 3 or 4 guys open, and they were only down by 1, I think, or by 2. He just has no awareness of how to play the game of basketball. He's an outstanding athlete, one of the greatest natural athletes to ever play basketball. As a pure athlete, he's up there with Michael Jordan and Kobe and Vince Carter and Dr. J and those guys. He doesn't quite float like those guys did, but as far as just pure explosiveness, he's right there with those guys. But he does not understand how to play basketball.
Nobody saw this coming, but a handful of people, maybe the closest in his circle. But
I saw it coming. Over the course of the 2015-2016 season, every time OKC played against the Warriors, Kevin Durant made a point to sidle up next to Steve Kerr and have conversations with him during the game. So when I saw that, I knew that there was something there that KD was trying to establish. It's almost like, you know, these stories of a guy and his girlfriend, and the girlfriend eventually leaves the guy for one of the guy's friends. But even when the guy was with the girl, the guy's friend would always have these little small talk conversations with the girl because he was filling her out. Kind of like Matt Barnes and Derek Fisher. You understand? Your woman just don't leave you for your friend. Like, you know, there have been some seeds getting sown for a while. So if you pay attention, you can see it coming.
It was a basketball decision, and it was the best decision for him because it put his mind at ease. Because guess what? We're not having. Who's the best player that's never won a championship? Kevin Durant's not in that discussion. So I believe when he says.
Absolutely. That's why I say he broke through the fourth wall. KD wasn't trying to be that 33-year-old great player looking for a championship. And that's the point. You learn from a lot of the bad decisions from players in the past. Charles Barkley can talk all of the shit that he wants to talk. The fact of the matter is that he was trying to get out of Philly from the late 1980s. Around 1990, he was trying to get to the Lakers. Then he forced a trade to the Phoenix Suns. Then he left his own Phoenix Suns team to go join a team that had beat him twice in 2 7-game series in the playoffs in the mid-1990s. That's what Charles Barkley did. And he also was up 3-1 against the Houston Rockets and left them to go join that same Houston Rockets franchise led by Hakeem Olajuwon, who was his rival during that time period. So, you know, history repeats itself. It's just that these young guys today are learning faster than the old heads did back in the 1990s. There's a reason why Karl Malone tried to sign with the Lakers in 2003. He wanted to cap off his career with a championship. There's a reason why Gary Payton went to the Miami Heat in the mid-2000s. He was trying to get a championship. Had they done that 10 years earlier, they probably would have gotten one. Right? Imagine if Gary Payton left the Seattle Supersonics and said, you know what? I'm going to go to the Orlando Magic and play alongside Penny Hardaway and Shaquille O'Neal. They probably would have given the Chicago Bulls a hell of a run. You know what I'm saying? If Charles Barkley said just a bit earlier in his career, you know, I'm going to go to Portland and team up with Clyde Drexler and those guys over there, Jerome Kersey, and see if we can take on Jordan. No, or if he went to the Knicks and teamed up with Patrick Ewing and those guys. Like, that's how you win championships. A lot of these guys, they don't want to be side notes in history anymore. They don't want to play the antagonist to the one great protagonist in an era anymore.
And I first guessed this because the day that bombshell dropped, which was July the 4th of that year, as you recall, I immediately tweeted. I think we're on vacation because I was in Palm Springs. I tweeted, good for him, that this...
No, I don't think that you guys were on vacation. You guys had not started your show yet. Because you started your show in September of 2016. KD signed there in July of 2016. I think that Nick Wright was on the air when KD signed with the Warriors, if I remember correctly.
Absolutely the right move when the basketball world was condemning him and continued to condemn him all into the next year.
He did it to this day.
Yeah, that's what he said in the interview.
Yeah.
But he had to make this move for two reasons. He wanted to get away from Russell Westbrook because he decided he could not win a championship with Russ as his primary decision maker.
Okay.
And he was right.
Okay.
So we fast forward to now. LeBron has decided he can win a championship with Russ as possibly his primary decision maker.
Right.
That's why I state the NBA today is so silly. It's so ridiculous. It's almost like a soap opera. Like you watch these theatrical films or these soap operas, you have the boyfriend and the girlfriend, and then, you know, they have another couple that's their best friends, and then they swap mates, and now they hate each other and all this other stuff. It's like, come on now. What are the chances that you had KD with Russ, and then LeBron and Kyrie, and now you have KD and Kyrie, and now LeBron with Russ? I mean, come on. This is so damn scripted.
I think he's going to be the point guard. You say LeBron wants to play off the ball.
But in this case, LeBron is the screenwriter.
But Kevin also said, from a basketball point of view, which I appreciated in the interview with Draymond, he fit with Golden State because what he does is what they need.
That's the real reason why people were so upset. It was almost too perfect. It's like watching a movie where the lead actor was born to play that role. Like Matt Damon as Jason Bourne, or Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly, or Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, or some shit like that. You know, Denzel Washington as Alonzo Harris. There are certain films that you watch and you say, okay, this actor was almost born to play this role. When KD signed with Golden State, it was almost too perfect to be true because he was exactly what they needed. It wasn't like he was a facsimile of what they needed. He was exactly what they needed. They needed someone who could offset LeBron.
He is an efficient scorer who does not command and demand the basketball, and he loved the way they moved themselves and the basketball.
Right.
He fit in the flow of their offense, and he said, I fit on both ends of the floor because he will rim protect.
Yeah.
He's 7 feet tall.
Correct.
And Draymond called him on it and said, I don't care what anybody says, you're 7 feet tall, because he is.
Right.
And
KD's about 6'10" with no shoes on. I believe his official height is like 6'9"3/4 without shoes on. He's not 7 feet.
7 long.
Right.
So he can rim protect.
He's around the same height as Larry Bird was.
To do that.
Right.
So he helped Golden State on both ends of the floor and was a much better fit there, found a much better niche there,
Right.
was much happier there in the flow of the offense than he ever was with Russ because, trust me, with Russ is going to dribble the ball off the floor and then Russ is going to look over to the wing and say, I think it's my turn.
Right.
That's exactly what Russ is going to do. All they did was play street ball. That's why KD got frustrated.
I'll give you a chance.
But Skip, let's just go ahead and put this out. Kevin Durant is a great fit anywhere. In any offense, at any time. When you're that tall and can shoot the ball like that, can handle the ball like that, there isn't an offense that you're not a great fit for. But this was the app.
And doesn't need the basketball. That's the most important thing. That's what makes KD probably the most versatile offensive player in the history of the NBA. Would I say that he's necessarily the best offensive player in the history of the NBA? No. But you can make that argument. But I would say that he is the most versatile offensive player in the history of the NBA.
Big fit. Because the ball is hot potato.
Right.
Steph, Clay, Draymond, KD, boom. Or vice versa. So you're right. Nobody dominates the ball. Steph doesn't dominate the ball. Steph is constantly running. Steph don't have the ball long enough to
so does
dominate.
Clay.
Yeah, Steph just runs a marathon every game. I don't know how the hell he does that shit. Like, he runs a marathon every game. That's why I laugh when people compare Dame Lillard to Stephen Curry. Like, Stephen Curry does so much more than Dame Lillard does. It's not even funny. That's the reason why Steph consistently shoots 5 to 6 percentage points higher than Dame every year. Because he moves so much without the basketball. It disturbs the defense. The defensive rotations, they're constantly watching to see where he's going because there's no set pattern to his movements. And by the time he gets the ball, his defender is tired and he's able to get decent shots and decent looks, even when he's being double teamed. And it's harder to double team him because he moves so much without the ball. Dame just wants to go 1-on-1 or 1-on-2 all the time. And his thing is, if they come and double me, I'll just pull up from 30. So he's taking a lot of contested shots from 30, and he's not the shooter that Stephen Curry is. Just facts.
All three of those guys, when they got together, could be catch and shoot three pointers, three guys.
Yep.
But Skip, this was a perfect fit, and I absolutely believe it that he would do it all over again because the championships brought him peace. It brought him peace of mind. And
well, I'll say this: I don't think that the championships, I don't think that they brought him peace at all. I actually think that they woke up a certain monster in him, a different type of monster. For him to say to himself, okay, I have the hardware to shut my critics' mouths up for now, but it's not organic. KD needs to win a real championship somewhere, and I think that when he does, he'll have the same reaction that LeBron had when he won the championship in Cleveland. It would not surprise me to see KD break down and start crying and say, okay, this must be what Jordan felt like when he started crying in '91. When you really win it in a real way. But, those championships in Golden State, those were just to buy him time and get him the experience that he needed on a winning level. So now he knows what it takes to win.
This discussion, because I can imagine what you would be saying had he not have those championships, and here we are in year 14, 15.
Well, that didn't happen.
See, that's why he would do it all over again.
Yeah.
Guys, is there an NFL...
But anyway, that's basically it on that. When we make difficult decisions, we just cannot have regrets. Have to move forward. That's why the front windshield is so large and the rearview mirror is so small. So peace.